Very excited. It looks like we have a small but mighty bunch today, which I hope will encourage you to kind of make this more of a dialogue and conversational rather than a presentation that is just us talking and you listening. Yeah, that's a little bit about me. I've been at New College about 5 years now, and I've been doing residence life all of those 5 years, and it's been a really big joy. So I'll stop there and I'll hand it over to my colleague Cassandra.
Greetings. Where are we? Mid-August. We're weeks away from welcoming our September arrivals. I'm the administrative assistant for the Office of Residence and Student Life. So we've been working remotely since mid-March, and we're very thrilled that it's almost go time for the fall. So we've got a jam-packed presentation, and there will be time at the end. If you have questions, you can definitely throw them to us.
Great. So what we're going to do is get started with it gives us a sense of where you are in the world. So the way in which you want to be able to do this is to go up to the top of your screen to view options. There's a little drop down menu there that allows you to annotate. So click the annotate field and then you'll get a toolbar. And what you want to be able to do is use the stamp. And there's a heart, there's a star, there's a check mark, there's X marks the spot. And really go ahead and, in a way, mark where you're at in the world. So yes, you can even use a line and point it out. So ingenious. So excellent. So we've got Egypt, we've got Japan, a couple of spots on the west coast of Canada and the United States. So excellent. Excellent. So thank you for doing that. One of the reasons why we do that is we recognize that New College has students coming to us from all over the world. And irrespective of what your plans currently are, we recognize that we are in a state of emergency. It's not just an emergency that's in Toronto, Ontario, and Canada, but it is a global state of emergency with the COVID-19 pandemic. And so we recognize really that plans will always be in flux, that plans will change. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of put out a poll, and I'm going to put out a poll and figure out what your current plans are, and then we'll get started. So.
And Dirk, if you want to do block 2 on the questions, yeah, you got it. Cool. Perfect.
So. What are your current plans? And pick an option that works for you. I hope you plan to physically arrive on campus and live in residence in the fall. I hope or plan to physically arrive on campus and live off campus in the fall. Hope to plan to physically arrive on campus and live in residence in the winter, which is January 2021. Want to live off campus in the winter, January 2021. I am unsure at this time. I plan to complete my first year online for where you currently live. So choose the option that works for you. Okay. Give you a couple more seconds. Excellent. So really, it's evenly split. Some of you want to live in residence in the fall. Some of you want to come and live in residence in January. And so thank you for that. We will share a little bit of those results. So I'm sharing you a little bit of those results. And why you're taking this session, you want to kind of understand how Res Life is organized at New College, followed by learning a lot of different opportunities and programs available at New College residence. So proceed with our next slide. Thanks, Todd. So really, guidelines for today's session. We give you an introduction to the Office of Residence and Student Life. We'll talk a little bit about how we are organized here and we are structured here at New College, especially in residence. We'll talk a little bit about our learning goals and the things that can advantage you during your time here with us in residence. And then I will hand it over to my colleague, Cassandra, who will walk you through the nitty-gritty, the details around housing, the application process, and a list of things that you need to remember as you're navigating all of the emails and all of the communications that are coming from the institution. So something for you to kind of think about. Let's go ahead. So just guidelines for today's residence panel. As I said, we welcome Sophie. As I said, that we are a small but mighty bunch. So we will ask you to use the chat feature to write questions that you may have, and Todd will be gracious enough to monitor that and share those questions as we go along. Use your preferred name so that we can address you or call on you if you'd like to speak or have questions. You can use the raise hand feature. Mute yourself when you enter the room. And then there'll be a Q&A period after the residence information and the housing information. So you can just make sure that you know that. So a little bit about, moving forward, a little bit about our Office of Residence and Student Life. So we are a small but mighty office. We are the office that is often a first stop for students in their journey at the University of Toronto and at New College. We are led by someone called the Dean of Students, Leah McCormick-Smith. I am the Assistant Dean for Residence Life. I am accompanied by two colleagues, Todd LeBlanc, who is the Assistant Dean for Student Life and Leadership, and then Nikki Butler, who is the Assistant Dean for Administration. And we are assisted by a slew, I say a slew of formidable coordinators. So we have Jerusha with communications, Elizabeth with the Residence Life program, Cassandra with all things the office. She's like the chief of staff. And then Jared Boland, who heads up our student life portfolio as well with Todd. So together we are the Office of Residence and Student Life. These are names. You will often receive email and communications from these folks in various capacities. But this is essentially the team of professional staff that help curate a wonderful, wonderful student experience here at New College. So our mission, vision, and values are really one of the biggest things about the Office of Residence and Student Life is that we see ourselves as contributing to the academic mission of the college. We do that by wanting to facilitate your transition, a seamless transition into residence, through residence, and out of residence, so that your experience at the University of Toronto can be what you need it to be. We really embrace our responsibility in helping students become and continue to be engaged participants in the world around them. So really, what we do in the residence really is part of this mission and vision and values for the Office of Residence and Student Life. We have a few values that frame the work that we do. We are collaborative. We are equity grounded. We believe in innovation. We want to be transparent and open with our communications. Personal growth, we are really, really committed. But we also recognize that sometimes being committed to your personal growth means also challenging you to be the best versions of yourselves. Sometimes when you may not be able to see it, you will have us kind of point it out to you, and we want you to be able to kind of receive that in the spirit of generosity. And being student-centered, we are student-centered in our approach to build students who are engaged and active participants of their many diverse communities. So these are the values, and this is the mission that drives us. A little bit about our residence community. We have 3 buildings. We have Wilson Hall, Wetmore Hall, and the Wilcox residence at 45 Wilcox across the street. Approximately 880 students live in residence. It's a diverse community of from all over the world. Last year, we had close to 60% of them were international students. So that's really, really exciting. Mostly first-year students, undergraduate students who are 70% first years and 30% upper years. And we are primarily a Faculty of Arts and Sciences college. What does that mean is that we joined six other colleges under the Faculty of Arts and Sciences banner. We have a small number of seats from professional faculties such as engineering, architecture, kinesiology and physical education, music, etc. We have 20 residence houses of approximately 40 to 50 students. If you love Harry Potter and Gryffindor and Slytherin, I'm a Hufflepuff myself. We have 20 houses here that compete annually in a series of events for the House Cups. And that is a very, very, very exciting feature of, and a very fiercely contested feature of our residence life experience. These 20 houses are stewarded, are headed by what we call dons. In the United States, it's referred to as a residence assistant. Here we refer to them as dons, residence dons. And we typically have 21 residence dons, which include 3 lead dons, 1 for each building, and 11 residence academic programmers. And the academic programmers are essentially second-year students and up. Dons are typically third-year students and up. That take care of programming and the vibrance in the community during the regular school year. We want to also be able to note that our houses are often mixed communities. So they're non-gendered specific, non-program specific, or year specific. So you are likely to come in, even if you're a life science student. We believe in mixed communities because it allows you to have a well-rounded experience when you engage with and interact with students from different disciplines and from different majors. So moving forward, we've talked a little bit about residence dons and residence academic programmers. So this is our wonderful team. As you will note, that it's a very, very diverse team. Every year we receive a lot of applications for these roles. Last year we were close to about 140 applications for these roles, and there are not always a lot of spots available. So these are like some of our highest and best student leaders that we have out there. So a few more demographics, a little bit about New College, a little bit about residence life. I won't kind of delve into it too much, but this kind of gives you a slice of who we are as a community. Let's move forward to our New College residence curriculum. And I want to be able to kind of share the priority or the principle or the mantra that guides the work that we do. So we want to be able to let you know that the Residence Life program prioritizes a safe and supportive residence experience where students can grow academically, explore their personal identity, and purposefully engage with their community with respect, responsibility, and reciprocity. And so that is kind of the mantra, the philosophy that drives everything that we do in New College residence. And that mantra is represented in 4 key learning goals: academic sustainability, purposeful transitions, personal and collective wellness, and community responsibility and engagement. And there are objectives to these goals, right? So they're really, so we want, when we talk about academic sustainability, we want students to understand we want you to understand what you need. We want you to understand the resources available. We want you to be able to develop. So it's not only being aware of it, but it's really having a knowledge around the resources and to be able to kind of develop a skill set and in order to be able to use those resources effectively as and when you need them. Similarly, we recognize that students engage in multiple transitions. Some of you are going to be coming from overseas. This year, that's going to be a particular kind of transition with the quarantine period and the start of the school year, which is going to be kind of very different than what it would have been in any other year. And so there are going to be several transitions that you're going to be making. And we want to be able to kind of have you recognize that transitions is not just one single transition. It is many, many transitions in there. And how you are not just an individual, but you're working in collaboration with the community, in connection with the community, and that becomes really, really important part of the experience of living in residence and living with others. Personal and collective wellness, I don't need to turn around and tell you that. We are very, very firm believers in honoring yourself, honoring your body, and recognizing what your body needs, and knowing when you need sleep. That becomes really, really important. And then finally, as I said, you don't do things individually. You really, really work with the community. The House Cups is just one example of a community coming together in houses to be able to kind of get their best experience. But you will realize that what we really, really believe here is about interdependence. We want you to be independently minded, but we also want you to kind of have an accountability towards the community. And that's what it means to kind of build global citizens for a changing world. So let's move forward because I want to kind of give you, we surveyed our students over the last couple of years. And I want to be able to kind of let you know, 421. So remember I said 900 students participated. So 421 students responded to that survey. That is a very, very healthy response rate. So these points of data are really, really, really significant. So we surveyed 421 students at the midpoint of the year last year about learning goals, the 4 learning goals on the previous page, and the impact on the student experience as a result of living in residence. And first year students said almost 97% said that they participated in intentional conversations. So we allow dons, those leaders of those communities, to have intentional conversations, 2 check-ins per semester with students. 97% said they participated in them. And out of that 97, almost 98.5% mentioned they were useful in helping them succeed at U of T during their first year. So the internal interaction. So one of the beautiful parts of living in residence is you always have someone you can turn to. It is a structure, it's built into the structure of the work that we do. And so that becomes really pivotal. That connection becomes really pivotal towards resources, towards success. That becomes really, really pivotal. When we looked at upper year students, one of the points of data that said that the upper year students, almost 9 out of 10 students said that they had a better knowledge of what they needed to do as a result of living in residence and as a result of the learning goals that the residence program is framed around. They could name resources to support the 4 learning goals. And what this tells us is that for upper year students, the repeated learning in residence, something sticks. Yes, it is convenient to live in residence, but repeated learning in residence, living in residence allows you to better acclimate yourselves to what's available and how you need to use that. International students, a data point here, almost, and this is higher than upper year students and close to what first year students have. Almost 95% of the agreed that they had a better knowledge of the resources as a result of living in residence and the learning goals. And they could name resources and access those resources. So I think that this is really important. It really it tells you a story around why learning goals are important and the value of what living in residence can do for you. So I'm going to turn it over. I see that there are a few questions coming in, so I'm going to take those quickly.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that now. Sandra's already done a great start on them, Dirk, but I think maybe you could answer a couple more.
So when do we get to know our residence house? So Anvi, so as you know, things have been a lot in flux. And so we hope within the next 2 weeks that we will be able to place folks and communicate where you are. You may only know the building. You may only find out the building that you're going to be in. You may not know perhaps your room number directly, but you will know that in the next 2 weeks. Some communication regarding placement will happen in the next 2 weeks.
I think there's one more, Dirk, and then I think that we can probably save the rest for the end. There's a question from Andy.
Andy Moon.
Yes.
So mentioned there were 880 students in residence and 40 to 50 students per house. How many students per house do you now expect to be in each house given the current circumstances? Excellent question, Andy. So obviously, given the physical distancing guidelines, we are planning on, if we have approximately 900 students in residence, we were planning on a third. So safely, physically distancing safe practices, physical distancing, social distancing, maximizing the benefits of living in residence, but with the safety as advised by our public health authorities here in Toronto, and then by our environmental safety staff here at the university. And so a third, but we expect to be less than that. And I think that and part of that is just the nature of where things are with online and things like that. So that number, that third, really speaks to the ways in which we at New College want to do this in the safest manner possible. So, so the houses 40 to 50 will be somewhere between 10 and I want to say upwards limit of 15 in each house. Yeah, so.
Thank you, Dirk. And I think maybe, Dirk, as we switch over to Cassie, if you can just keep a skim on the questions, maybe some other ones you can add to in the chat. But I think that's a great part to pivot now to Cassandra.
So I'm going to turn it over to Cassandra, who will talk to you about all things housing. So Cassandra, over to you. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, Dirk, and welcome everybody again. So my name is Cassandra. As I mentioned earlier, I'm the admin assistant for the Office of Residence and Student Life. My role is to support incoming and prospective students, as well as new college staff. And you'll find me currently working remotely in Parkdale in Toronto, but usually I'm at the front desk. So I'm the first person you see in the office. I encourage you, if you have specific questions about your situation, or if you have a longer question that might not be suitable for the chat, definitely email us, include your full name and student ID, and send it to new.residence@utoronto.ca. Slide, please. Perfect. So here's, it'll be a whirlwind tour, a little bit about what we're covering, new college residence in general, the housing guarantee and how to secure your spot, residence fees and amenities, important residence dates, transitioning into residence, some resources and contact information that would be good to keep in mind. And again, there will be time at the end of this portion of the presentation for question and answer with Dirk, myself, and Todd, if there are any student life questions. Perfect, next slide, please. So our office is most commonly known as ORSL. So rather than the Office of Residence and Student Life, we like to kind of shorten it up. So that's how I'll be referring to it today. If you have maintained the housing guarantee this summer and you receive your residence placement in early August, so that would have been last week, at New College, our office will be one of your main points of contact leading up to move-in and throughout the academic year. Residents receive a lot of emails from our office, all very important, crucial pieces of information to know, ranging from move-in, holidays, facilities updates, those kinds of things. And then in addition to our office, from move-in to your last day in residence, all of our student leaders, so those Dons that Dirk touched on earlier, will also be points of contact for you. And I think it'll be interesting to have fewer people in residence because it'll give you a chance to get to know your peers, I think, on a closer level when you only have a third of the people on your house. So I think it's kind of a nice silver lining, I guess, out of this. Perfect. And as Dirk mentioned, we have 3 residence halls. Again, we are traditionally 880 students, but we are looking at less than that, unfortunately. And we are, our top priority for the coming year with COVID is ensuring the health and safety of our resident community, as well as our staff and our team. So I would definitely encourage you to bookmark and regularly review the website listed here. That's the Vice Provost's online FAQ about COVID, and it does get regularly updated as well. So be sure to check that periodically. And you can definitely expect emails to be coming to your mail.utoronto.ca email address as well. Next slide, please. Great. So room types. We historically offer 3 room types: single, double, and bed over desk double. However, due to the pandemic, for the upcoming school year, we are planning on placing residents in single rooms only to abide by those public health directives. Again, if you have maintained the housing guarantee and you have received your residence placement in early August here at New College, you'll then be able to indicate, as we mentioned earlier, your living preferences. And you can also check out our virtual residence tour listed here. The photos were taken before the pandemic, so you'll be able to see the lay of the land with the different room types as well. Next slide, please. Great. So we have the residence guarantee from the university here. We're at a point now where if you miss one of these deadlines, you are welcome to submit your application to our waitlist, but the university does have quite a few deadlines in place to help students secure their spot in residence. Next slide. Great. So a few steps to make sure that you secure your spot in residence. We have the 2 deadlines for deposits in June and July. And then if you were successful and you're planning on joining us in September, you would have received your residence specific placement and occupancy agreement last week on Friday. It's my understanding if you're planning on joining later in the fall or in the winter, you'll be getting those offers later on. So right now we're focused on September arrivals. And the most important note is to regularly check your inbox, junk and spam folders, because we do all of our communications from the university by email, especially now that we're working remotely. If you do call our office, you'll be directed to email us. So that's something good to know. And then as well, again, the Vice Provost website. I like to just remind people because that's where we get all of our information as well. Next slide, please. Meal plans. So historically, we have 3 meal plan options, but with the pandemic, we are shifting to a declining meal plan options. So there are 2, standard and light. You can find all of the details about those meal plans online. If you Google New College Code of Conduct, it'll take you to this website listed here on the slide, which gives you sort of the lay of the land of what the meal plans look like. And that was because we are wanting to abide by public health directives this year. And so the dining process will be modified, and depending on social distance guidelines, which are ever changing, we'll potentially coordinate time to entrances based on houses, increase educational signage and hand sanitizer stations, and the capacity for eating in the dining hall may be reduced or eliminated. So those details are also in the process of being confirmed, but you can expect more information leading up to your move-in. Next slide. Perfect, a lot of information. We're getting close to being done. Residence fees, I won't go into too much detail. Again, in the Residence Code of Conduct, you can find the breakdown, but this gives you a sense of your residence room, which is a residence room fee, which is a combination of your room type and meal plan. So you can see if you were to be living in Wetmore Hall and you have a light meal plan, there's a different fee if you were to be living in 45 Wilcox with a standard meal plan. So we won't be going into the how to pay your fees in this session, but again, more information will be coming by email. We have the deadlines listed here. So September 30th for all students, and then the second installment is due November 30th. Or if you are receiving OSAC, which is Ontario Student Loans, that would be January 31st. And we encourage our students to be proactive. So if you anticipate requiring financial aid or want to learn more information about scholarships or bursaries, don't hesitate to reach out to our registrar's office as soon as possible. Their email is listed here at newcollege.registrar@utoronto.ca. Perfect. Next slide. Awesome. So some of the fun stuff about our amenities and features. All residence rooms have hardwired internet access available via your UTOR ID. Additionally, there's full wireless internet access available on all residence floors and in the public areas of New College, including the lounges and the library in Wilson Hall. The library, DG Ivy Library, has over 60 workstations providing access to the internet, special collections, and color printing. They also have a variety of tech equipment to borrow. So you can actually, I'm not sure how it will work in the fall term, but there are typically laptops and microphones to borrow. We are working on plans for high traffic areas for common rooms and washrooms. The washrooms themselves are shared, and each washroom has several individual lockable shower and toilet stalls. As we follow public health guidelines, these spaces will have increased cleaning and reduced capacity at any given time. And it is possible that each resident will be assigned to one washroom. But again, these plans are being developed, and you can definitely expect more information about that in the coming weeks. Music rooms, something near and dear to my heart. We do have several at New College, which makes us pretty unique, and they are free to New College students and residents. Right now, the music rooms are closed, but we are monitoring public health guidelines to best determine when we can reopen these spaces. And finally, accessibility. Something very important to me as well. We do have a few barrier-free rooms in residence, and if you anticipate requiring support from accessibility services, definitely hop onto their website, studentlife.utoronto.ca/AS. If necessary, you can set up a meeting with somebody from accessibility services, and then we communicate with them to make sure that all of our students and residents are best supported. Perfect, next slide, please.
And Cass, before we shift, actually, there's a question in the chat on this particular slide. So someone said, hey, I heard the use of common rooms. Oh, so Dirk already answered the question. You know what? I'm going to let Dirk's response ride, and if Andy has further questions, he can follow up. Feel free to.
So Andy, just to kind of, I put that in there because Cass was talking, but washrooms will also be, the number of students per floor is really linked to the number of washroom facilities available, and so there's a ratio that we will maintain that is in keeping with public health directives, and at New College we are very, very sensitive to that. There are multiple washrooms per floor, and we will only have folks go to a particular washroom, so we will keep track of that and make sure that students know what washroom they're going to use and how they're monitored. And those are all considered high cleaning surfaces. So we'll have staff that will be going through those washrooms to make sure that they're wiped down. Folks will also kind of be supported with, as every entering student, staff, and faculty member will be given masks here so that they can use them while perusing common areas. You are required to be able to wear a mask as you're moving through any indoor area, as well as outside is recommended, especially when using public transit. And so those are some of the measures being put in place during this pandemic time. It doesn't matter whether we are in phase 3, masks are still required indoors when traveling through public common areas. So if you're traveling from your room to the washroom, you need to wear your mask. If you're traveling from the washroom or you're traveling from your room outside, you need to wear a mask. Elevators will also have restrictions in the number of people that can be inside an elevator. And these restrictions are not only unique to New College. These restrictions will be implemented across residences, across the University of Toronto St. George, and across all of the campuses, and are all in line with public health directives that are coming from the City of Toronto.
Great. Very good question, Andy. And like I said, more information will be coming, more specifics. So do be sure to check your email on a regular basis, which leads me to important residence dates, which are also on our website and slightly subject to change, but I think most of these are pretty set. So the 2 deposits were due in June and July. If you met those deposits, you would have received your residence placement last week if you are joining us in September. And the $600 deposit is due this Friday. And that $600 deposit is the final thing to say, yes, I'm coming, yes, I'm interested. After that point, you are essentially an incoming resident. So that's a really, deadlines are fun, but that's a really good one for us because it tells us who's joining in September. Move-in day, it will not be earlier than September 5th. We are still working at the logistics of safe, healthy, efficient move-in. So expect more information about that. But again, no earlier than September 5th. If you do require quarantining, you can now register for that as well. You, I think, would have received an email, but what I would recommend is if you have questions or if you're like, I don't know if I need to quarantine, you can email us and we can point you in the right direction. We have a number of online programs happening this summer, including our orientation week, which is happening August 31st to September 11th. And then classes begin September 10th. And then September 10th through to May 1st. That's kind of when you'll be with us. So it really flies by. 8 months kind of disappears, but it's going to be a great year. And we want to stress to students that will be joining us that we're kind of flying by the seat of our pants and we're in uncharted territory, but it's going to be a great year. And we have immensely talented and trained student staff and our team to really support our residents through this transition, because we know that it is going to be potentially stressful and a little nerve-wracking. So we want to be there for you as best we can. And I think one of my final slides, next slide, please. Great. So preparing for residence. Again, check your email. You can follow us on social media at Life@New. Our Instagram in particular is fantastic, and it showcases a wealth of our programming and a lot of throwback programming, photos and videos. A few key websites. Our website, newcollege.utoronto.ca/residence. The Housing Services website, and again, that Vice Provost website. And again, you can email us at new.residence@utoronto.ca. Just be sure to include your full name and student ID. And I put the 14-day mandatory quarantine information there as well on the Vice Provost website. So you can take a look there, and there's more information on how to register for that. Next slide, please.
Before that, I'm also going to let people know that I can come back to this slide later because there's a lot of links. So if people are like, oh, I want to get the information really quick, either you can screenshot it or we'll come back to it at the end. But yes, I'll move forward now.
Awesome. So very briefly, this is also in the Code of Conduct, but this gives you kind of a sense of what we are providing in a residence room. So your standard twin mattress and pad, garbage and recycling bin, curtains or blinds, bookshelf, smoke detector, internet connection, dresser, bulletin board. So really the basics. But you do have to furnish your room, and we do have some resources online as well for campus fridge rentals and residence linens. So if you aren't in a position to be able to come to Toronto and purchase these things, you can purchase them in advance and they get dropped off for when you move in, which is awesome. So again, you can log into the Code of Conduct to find this list. And I think final slide, a lot of information. Again, the deadline is this Friday for your final $600 deposit. Do be sure you get that deposit in on time. This year in particular, we won't be very lenient if you miss your deposit because we're dealing with a lot of moving parts. So if you need some help or what have you, email us as soon as possible. If you're required to quarantine, submit your application as soon as possible at starres.utoronto.ca. And again, move-in information is to be confirmed. So just keep checking your email, inbox, junk and spam folders. We don't want anything to go missing. And that is it. So I would say, what questions do you have? Whew.
Well, I see one in the chat already, so both maybe Dirk or Cassandra. So what, Andy asked, what, if any, amenities are provided in the laundry facilities, and can I confirm that they'd still be operated with coin?
So I can do that. There's a washer and a dryer. There are a couple of washers, couple of dryers, depending on the building that you're in. Some of the buildings have a larger number because the community is a little bigger, and so typically packaging during the regular year, so starting in September, is free. What you do need though is you need to bring your own loonie to be able to activate them. So it's operated with a coin, but you bring your own loonie and basically you put it in, you select your option and it returns it to you. So you just needed to kind of activate it. And the loonie is thanks Todd, is a Canadian $1 coin. And so that's what you would want to be able to use. In the past, communities have kept a community Loonie for different students to use. That will not be a practice this year because it encourages people touching the same coin. That's not going to be the thing that we use. So the kitchen sink will not be available for access. You know, because the ways in which it works is that the kitchen sink will be connected. Let me get back to you on that, Andy. I can't confirm that. There was a conversation about restricting access to common rooms entirely in order to kind of minimize, in order to kind of support physical distancing and social distancing. So that is left to be determined. The issue with the kitchen sink, if that is not the case, there may be an alternative that will be provided in terms of water coolers and stuff like that. So,
other questions folks may have, feel free to put them in the chat, or you can raise your hand. Feel free to turn your mic on if you're comfortable as well. And perhaps as people are thinking through that, Sandra, I'm wondering, or Dirk, are there any major questions that you're hearing and seeing via email, phone call, what have you, from other students that may be helpful to people watching or people that are tuning in right now? Any common questions?
There's certainly questions around the what ifs, like what if I'm supposed to be coming in October and then I can't for whatever reason, or the other way, like what if I'm planning to come to January but I can come earlier. And so what I would say is, with those kinds of bigger picture questions, I would direct your question to residents@utoronto.ca, include your full name and student ID, because they are managing kind of bigger picture. They were the ones managing the residence application process generally earlier in the year, as well as the 2 deposits in June and July. And so definitely direct your question to them. You can ask us, but essentially we would be pointing you in that direction.
And another question I've been hearing from folks writing to us from my team is asking 2 questions. One is, if I'm coming from in Canada, do I have a quarantine period of any kind? That's my first question. And then 2, what does the quarantine process look like for those coming from outside of Canada?
So what I would say is definitely check the 2 websites listed on this slide, number 4 and 5. The Vice Provost's students website has quarantine information now. It is now populated. It took them quite a few weeks, but that gives you a sense of if you need to quarantine, if you need to register. So that would be the first point of contact. There is also information on this slide, info.quarantine@utoronto.ca. So just generally, if you want to know more information about if you need to register, I would definitely direct your question there as soon as possible. Because I know it seems pretty scary, quarantining. I would say, Dirk, would you be able to touch on potentially like quarantining for our residents?
yeah, so I mean, the way in which so it depends. So there are 2 types of quarantine. Quarantining is if you're arriving from outside of the country, there's a mandatory quarantine, especially if you're in residence. That quarantine will take place not in residence. So there are special quarantine sites that have been designated with support services and programming that is specific to folks coming in for a 14-day period. So think of it as a 14-day hotel stay in that sense. And then from there, you will kind of move into residence after you've completed your 14-day quarantine period. And while you are in quarantine, there will be folks checking in on you, making sure that you have everything that you need, and making sure that you are well. The moment you if you have symptoms, then they will make sure that you have access to the resources that you will need to be able to get tested, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If you are in residence and you have symptoms and you need to be quarantined, chances are you will be physically relocated at your earliest to a quarantine site to complete your quarantine, and we will support you in that entire process. Alternatively, depending on whether it is a presumptive case or a confirmed case, you may be quarantined in residence, but you will still be required to move from your current space into a particular quarantine space that will be specifically set up to support all of your needs during those 14-day period, along with any medical support that you may need during that time, whether that is ongoing testing and things like that. So I would really encourage you to check out the quarantine FAQ prepared by the Vice Provost students. If you have any specific questions about quarantine, to email info.quarantine@utoronto.ca, because they will be able to clarify a lot of that. I think one of the things I want to be able to stress is we are taking this very seriously. I'm not going to compare. Other institutions have other ways of doing this. I think that one of the things that I think I've been really impressed is that there is a method here at the University of Toronto to help keep those members of our community currently within our community safe. That not only includes students, but includes the staff that work here. So Elizabeth Shaha and myself, we live in residence. So we are constantly working with students every single day. And so for us and for our dons, that safety and wellness becomes a big factor as well. And so we are committed to making sure that we do this right, and making sure that we do this intentionally, keeping in mind the health and safety of our staff, our faculty, and our students. So,
thanks for that, Dirk. And then I see, maybe I'll say last call for questions, but I see one from Maya up here, and maybe we don't have the answer for it. Maybe we could direct to the right place. So, do you know anything about travel restrictions? Some articles are saying they might be lifted for September, others for October, et cetera, et cetera. Any advisements and direction to look best on that?
So travel restrictions aren't dictated by our office. I think it's really a matter of managing or keeping up to date with communications by the governmental body, as well as the Government of Canada. I don't know where specifically you would check for travel restrictions.
The Government of Canada website and perhaps the Center for International Experience would be two good places to start. Yeah. I'm not sure what Dirk or Cassandra think of that.
So I would say the same thing. It's something that I do recognize that this week there will be another major announcement by the institution, which will probably respond to an announcement that is by the federal authorities here regarding international student arrivals and things like that. So I would say, like, within the next week there'll be more information coming. I think it's safe to say that the University of Toronto is not the only higher ed institution that is going to that is concerned about the safe passage of international students coming into the country, as well as transitioning into their university or their institution of choice. And so we are joined by other institutions expressing concerns regarding the processing of applications. But again, that is something, as Cassandra said, is not something that we can control. It's the federal government that controls the processing of study permits, the issuance of study permits. And then the final decision to admit you into the country rests with the Customs and Border Security agent at the airport. And so what we ask for you is to have all of your paperwork with you, to apply well in advance, and to keep watching those websites and those frequently asked questions, both with the Center for International Experience and the federal government, as well as the Vice Provost students.
Thank you, Dirk.
I think Andy had a question about printers. I would say it's coincidental that the photos featured in the virtual tour featured rooms that all had printers. It's not something that is mandatory. I'm not sure if how printing at the library will work. It should be an option. Like, they do have printers.
Whether or not they're open back at full capacity is the question.
Yeah. So I would recommend, like, folks have tended to get a small printer that allows for, clearly I think that it's not going to be, we don't have the capacity to be able to support high quality printers that can shoot out, like, 60 pages a minute. it's just not possible. But you can bring in a personal printer that allows you to kind of print out a paper that is 10 pages long. And it definitely is a point of convenience. I want to be able to kind of, I got an answer in terms of the most popular model for refrigerators, mini fridges to rent is a 3 cubic feet model that is 110 for the year. And that includes all costs for pickup, delivery of the fridge, as well as tax. So it's 110 for the year. From September to April, it gets dropped off and picked up for you. And it also includes tax, which is a great deal. So.
All right. I'm seeing no more questions. If there are any future ones, would we suggest best questions? Sorry, best direction for that, Cassandra, would be right there to residents@uturn.ca. For further questions people may have.
Yes.
Okay, great. So we're gonna call it there, folks. Again, we recognize we're kind of navigating this all together. We're kind of figuring out this stuff as we go from what the university at large and also from the government of Canada is telling us what the situation may look like, what it is looking like. So thanks for your patience with that. We're kind of working through this with you. But if you need some support, need some clarity, feel free to write your questions to Cassandra and our team at residents@uturn.ca. We'll be happy to do our best in supporting you throughout. The last things I'll say are this is, yes, like this page right here, it might be wise to screenshot this for yourself, but we do record these sessions. And so if you look on Presence, which is where you probably found the link to this page, on our Presence page, we'll have links in the coming days to all of our recordings from this video, as well as our many other summer welcome sessions we've had throughout the summer thus far. Other than that, please take care of yourselves and each other. All the best as we navigate our way through August together. And I'll do a shameless plug here is if you haven't thought about what you're doing to start the year off, whether you'll be an international student or you'll be a student coming from within Canada, identifying it as a domestic student, please tune in and subscribe and register, for our welcome programs, our transition programs. And those are the new journeys for international students and new routes for all students. It's been earlier in the chat if you're curious about that. Other than that, please take care. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we're looking forward to having a chance to connect with you further as we progress through the summer. All the best, everyone.